This is the ancient city of Corinth, the place that bears the name of the two epistles of Paul, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, a place where Paul visited and spent an extensive amount of time ministering here in this city for a year and a half. The platform behind me is the Bema, the judgment seat. In our minds, when we hear the word judgment seat, we perhaps think of a chair, but the judgment seat was a court. And the platform is the platform where the court was. The magistrates would be standing above on the upper platform. And the lower platform, where the people are standing right now, they're standing around a punishment, like a whipping post, where the judgment would be carried out on the person convicted of the crime or the offense against Rome. Wondering if that's what Paul has in mind here, and he certainly uses that illustration in Romans chapter 14. And he says this in verse 10, "You then, why do you judge your brother, or why do you look down on your brother? For we will all stand before God's judgment seat." Paul says that in the context of eating meat offered to idols, and he's encouraging believers that God is our judge, and we ought not to judge one another in terms of things that are not essential or not the things that are really the things that we ought to be fighting about in Scripture. When Paul wrote those words in Romans, he was writing from the seaport of Centuria, just a couple of miles from here, very close by, and he's writing to Rome, which he had not yet been to. I was wondering if Paul was thinking about the meat market, which is right here, just perhaps about 30 or 40 feet away from the judgment seat, was the area that they believe was the meat market, or the central market of this massive city of Corinth in the 1st century. And the Apostle Paul makes it clear that perhaps these two things are connected, at least in the mind of the Romans, or at least in his mind, as he wrote the epistle of Romans, and he was thinking about perhaps this place here in the city of Corinth in the 1st century AD.